What else we got going on?
One thing I think in line with what you're talking about there is obviously every business, maybe with the exception of online businesses, typically work out of space. Now, it could be owned by the seller, it could be rented. And that space becomes problematic sometimes because, like, we have a restaurant right now that we're looking at. It's a winery and a restaurant, and it's in their own building. And so there's really three moving parts: the restaurant, the building itself, and the winery. They all could be separate from each other. So in valuation of this particular business, it's incumbent upon me to figure out if they're paying in their financials, if they're paying market rent. That seems pretty obvious, but it's typically an owner will sometimes, I don't know, typical, Todd, you can tell me what's typical, but since we're also commercial real estate brokers, we like to take the real estate and the business at the same time. And then when you go to the owner, how do you want to split the purchase? Do you want more in the business side, or do you want more of the real estate side if it buy the whole package? And but in the valuation, back to that point, sometimes if the lease is too short, you can't sell the business anyway because they don't have any place to go. And that new buyer is going to have a problem and it won't close because of a short lease. The bank won't loan on it.
Yeah.
If there's a bank loan. And the other thing would be if you're valuating it and you're looking at the net proceeds and the SDE of the seller, the seller's discretionary earnings. I have this one I just mentioned. They're charging about $1,000 less than market to themselves, or paying about $1,000 less. Well, that's $12,000 comes off the bottom line, which affects the value of the business.
Yes.
So, the question is, well, do you want more value in the business, or do you want it on the real estate? You want to sell as a package? It gets real complicated because in this case, I don't know what's best for them. They might want to hold on to the business and the winery and sell the restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, I think, sometimes.
It is, but I think that generally the conversation is, what are they looking for? Because often what I find is that the business owners want to sell the businesses to eliminate some of the headaches of business ownership. Okay. Or they're just tired, or they want to do other things. They want more freedom. And so they want to sell the business, but the real estate, sometimes they want to keep it long-term lease to have recurring revenue. So, and still maintain a stream of revenue, and then maybe sell it, another 5 years, 10 years down the road. So I think that, the conversation I have with business owners is, what are they looking for? Do they want to sell the building? Do they want to, sometimes they want to sell the whole thing because they want to relocate out of state and they don't want any ties to California when, once they're gone. Sometimes they don't care. They don't have a preference. It's just like, well, I'm happy to do a long-term lease, or if the buyer wants to buy the building, I'm happy to sell them the building. So I think for me, it always starts with a conversation with the seller of what is their objective? What are they really looking to do, and how can I help them achieve that goal? And then the other thing that you have to look at is, sometimes if the business is worth $200,000 and the building is worth $1.2 million, then and they want it packaged together. Well, a business worth $200,000 cannot generate cash flow sufficient to cover the mortgage or the rent on a $1.2 million business or building. And so that's another conversation that has to be had. That's like, look, we could try and package it together. Ultimately, people interested in the business probably are not going to be able to finance the building as well, because the business won't support the cash flow. And people who are interested in the building may not have any interest whatsoever in the business. So you may end up having to make a decision to go ahead. If you want to sell the building, we may end up finding a buyer for the building that is not interested in the business. And if that's the case, are you willing to sell the building knowing that you're going to liquidate and sell off the assets of the business or whatever? And so, again, every different situation has to be evaluated. And what it comes down to is, what does the seller want? And then go from there.
We have another one. It's a manufacturing plant, and it's 40 years old. He's got 10 or 11 employees, and he's located in a unique location. His building is worth far more than his business, and his business cannot support the rent. So he's paying himself $80,000 a year in rent, but and the business is still breaking even at that, but the market rent would be $120,000 a year. And so the business isn't worth, the point. So what we're saying to him is, well, we've got, the same problem, but the twist to that is he does not want to close his business down and liquidate, because he's got 10 employees there that depend on that business,
right?
None of which will be able to buy the business, none of which could operate it or, do what he does. So we got this conundrum in a sense. We to sell the building and throw in the business, or what do we do here?
Yeah.
And the right buyer. It's a good question, and it's a tough one, actually.
It is, because like you said, the business cash flow doesn't support the rent at market rent. So even if you sell the business and he wanted a long-term lease at market rent, you wouldn't be able to find a buyer who would be willing to buy the business to lose $40,000 annually, right? So if the business is just breaking even at below market rent, by the time you make that negative adjustment, all that, so now you have a business that's really just an asset sale of assets in place, not going to be worth a whole lot, and somebody coming in trying to buy it wouldn't be able to afford the rent. So now they're looking at having to relocate the business, and relocate it where? And if market rent is substantially higher than what they're paying there, then again, where are you going to move it to? Unless there's a lot more space than the business actually needs and all that, they can consolidate, downsize. So yeah, that gets tricky.
Both of these businesses, interestingly, one of them, the restaurant winery, they're on islands in Washington. It's beautiful, right? It's a setting. And wineries, now maybe we know up here in Washington, there are stupid people with money that they want to throw away. And they do it a lot of times on wineries. We've seen a lot of people invest more money than is possible for any logical meaning on wineries. And so, and the same thing with the manufacturing business. It's almost a lifestyle location. You can't get to it. You can't drive to it. You have to, and he's been running it off this island for 40 years. And it's a national company. I mean, he works nationally. He's got a very niche market. So the market itself is very good. He's got great clients, but again, it's just breaking even. And so, it's going to take a unique buyer, is my thinking on that, or maybe a competitor that wants a good tax rate. I don't know. I just don't know. It's a toughie.
Does he have a manager that he could possibly seller finance it to and then just increase the rent? Because if he's taking some kind of salary out of it and that salary is removed and he increases the rent on the building and he seller finances it to someone who's within the company.
Well, that's the first question you ask, right?
Yeah.
That's the absolute first thing you do ask. Is there someone in your company that would run this company or can run it? Because you need to ask that question anyway, because a new buyer is going to come along and say, well, who's going to run this company?
Right.
We don't know anything. And yes, he does have a guy, but he's 65 years old. And he's not going to put himself in debt. He's as old as the owner. So he's not leaving. But the owner's going to move to a different island because he's got a girlfriend. I know he's going to move. There's no doubt about it. He's selling. He's 40 years. He's done it. And my question was, if you leave, will the business fail? Can anyone run it? No, he said. It might fail. So, and you walk into the place, it's spotless. It's absolutely runs like a well-oiled machine. It's really impressive. They've got real specialty equipment. I don't think they market. I don't think he's a marketer. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for the right buyer. I think there's UL stuff going on too, because it's in a particular segment of construction. So it's got a little complication to it. It's got CAD. It's got a lot of elements that someone would find interesting, I think, and would, so it's got pizzazz, but it has to be upside. Otherwise, just for what it is right now, it's a tough deal.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's an interesting thing. I find it very, very intriguing to me. And so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because no matter the business, there's always a buyer out there to, if it's doing decent revenue, there's always somebody out there that may have an interest in it, even if it's not, even if it's not positive cash flow or whatever, it may have enough other assets, particularly in the winery. I mean, there are a lot of people that just want bars. They like that idea of owning a bar, or an idea of owning a winery, an idea of owning, a brewery. I mean, the breweries and all of that are very popular, and
we've got a brewery too.
Yeah. I mean, I know attorneys that invest in, that's what they want. These attorneys, they want breweries and wineries and things like that. And it's almost like a pet project. I mean, it's not really the business that they're going into. It's just something that they want on the side. So kind of a lifestyle thing.
It's really found money. A lot of these people have found money out there. We see it in the real estate side with the 1031s, right? If you sell this piece of real estate for more than it's worth, you've got all these dollars, and you try to, protect it. You go out and spend way more than you should on a building. We've got one of those right now we're trying to buy. And because he paid too much for it, it's hard to buy it too. But it's the problem, I guess, is all of this isn't just straightforward dollars and cents thing. It's a lot of this emotion, as Tanya has many times pointed out. People sell and buy businesses based on a lot of things other than just money. And so if there's that element there, which we think there is in these two businesses on the islands that are kind of romantic, sort of, maybe, we might find the right buyer. So if you guys know of any good buyers that want to move to the Northwest and be on an island, let us know. With money, they don't care if they lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's part of the game, right? Part of the challenge for us, being able to find and locate those buyers. How do we find them? Where do we find them? You know?
We are doing I think you know that we have a engineering company that's on the market right now. And it's a private practice. There's just 3 people and it needs a electrical engineer license, right? It's got the fact that if you're not licensed in Washington, you can't really run it very well, other than maybe hiring someone to sign off. But we got a list of 8,000 licenses from the state of Washington through an association, and we targeted them, sent it right out to them. We got some pretty good responses.
Awesome.
So that would be what my suggestion would be to the dentists and doctors and that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But they have to know that they can sell. I mean, they have to know there's a possibility that they can sell. So
Yeah.
that comes down to the education again.